Hello gamers, welcome back to Idiosyn's Let's Play of Assassin's Creed Origins, parte 124. Wow, I don't pronounce that number very well. Whatevs. Who cares? I am going through the last leg of finals right now, and it's hell on earth. But what's even worse than having to work on those finals every day is accidentally getting caught up in a YouTube hole where I'm watching eating challenges for like a consecutive 4 hours. I don't even know how the hell that happens. There's also some Mr. Puzzle mixed in, but I mean, it's all the same. It's just colossal waste of time. Like, I'm not even being inspired by the content I'm watching. I'm just watching someone else consume things or enjoy products without even consuming or enjoying those products myself. It's like the most asinine of habits on YouTube, but it's one of the most irresistible. And I don't know why. So, you know, let's go all man versus wild here, and let's redeem ourselves a little bit by commentating on one of the worst games of the year that made it to the Game Awards. And thank Jesus Christ that last night this game did not win Action Adventure Game of the Year. I believe that went to Breath of the Wild's, big surprise, which also won Game of the Year, big surprise. Personally, I thought Super Mario Odyssey deserved Game of the Year more, but that's just me.
I do not know what happened, but Sutros has never attacked anyone before. His eyes turned red. Did you see? Is Sobek displeased with us?
It's always sad to me, as someone who's not even much of a Nintendo fan, when I have to concede the big, you know, Titan Nintendo games of the year as being the best of the year. That shows you there's not a whole lot going on that year. But I have to say, this year was not as bad as 2016. 2016 was a pretty bad year for games.
I should take a look at the crocodile's enclosure.
So it did turn around a little bit.
No sign of the priest. But Sutros looks agitated. I should try to stay unnoticed.
Pet Sutros because you pet his Sutros, right? That's a African word for the tail of the crocodile, the Sutros. I don't know, I'm just trying to figure this out. We're doing a boring ass investigation, but it's made kind of tense because there's a live crocodile that could attack me nearby. Ooh. It's literally like the most in-depth investigation of the game. Like, it doesn't get better than this for investigations, and that's really sad to say. I hate the fact that I have to do about 46 minutes of commentating today.
Foul-smelling liquid.
And I'm gonna hate every minute of it. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me at this point. I don't know why I do this shit.
Someone was injured in the enclosure. They went up the staircase.
You could say I'm cutting my teeth, like I've said a million times before, but I'm starting to get disillusioned even on that thin cop-out. Like, it's clear that I beat the game, I filmed the entirety of beating it, and then I just stubbornly uploaded all of that footage. Oh, fuck my life. Being a day that I have not gotten as much sleep as other days, it's definitely a fuck my life kind of day.
Whoever was wearing this was badly injured. The blood trail leads outside.
I had my final lecture in young adult fiction this morning, and we were doing this really stupid mock debate where the professor arbitrarily split up the room to argue whether or not the best children's books are written in blood, and one half of the room had to say no and the other half of the room had to say yes. Because it was something that Sherman Alexie said. And I was in the middle of the line, so I asked if I could kind of like give like a more balanced view, and the professor was like, sure. And so one of the points that came up was that we shouldn't teach our children, like one of the points I guess that's common to the internet is that we shouldn't teach our children
By crocodiles. What was he
young
doing back
adult works, or, you know, children, young teens or whatever, young adult books which argue against the traditional history that's taught in the United States, with The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie being a prime example, because, you know, it basically talks all sorts of crazy shit on American history, saying how, like, you know, our concept of manifest destiny is corrupt and we really fucked over the Indians, and, you know, whereas a traditional history book might be a little bit more, you know, forgiving to the United States and say, well, at least we have the 50 states now, or some stupid shit. And the professor was like, so, in a way, this means that Alexie's work is propaganda. And I raised my hand and said, well, it would seem to me that Alexie's work is, it's not really propaganda, because if you're saying it's propagandizing history that already is propaganda, so it's like canceling the propaganda. And the professor is like, well, I would be inclined to agree with you, but the question, I suppose, is at what age should we be educating our children about the truth of a political situation? Should we be telling them political truths? And I said that politics don't have a legal age. And for some reason, there was like embarrassed laughter all over the room. Like what I said was scandalous or something. Like it's scandalous to say that, like, children should be allowed to form their political views as soon as they possibly can. You know? And then, like, one guy clapped for me, which I guess that felt kind of good. But that class has been, like, the entirety of that class has been me dealing with normie 18 and 19-year-olds whose idea of a good time is watching, you know, Frozen and writing fan fiction. So yeah, it's not been great. I've been dealing with like some Generation Y kiddos essentially, or Generation Z, sorry, who are like super SJW friendly. So yeah, every time I say anything that's even slightly provocative, it's like all of a sudden I'm an asshole. Like, there was a book we had to or not a book we had to read, but a book we discussed that was written in the 70s, I guess, about this, like, 40-something-year-old man who starts a relationship with a 19-year-old boy, and how controversial that was, and still is, I suppose. Because, you know, the question is, should we as a society not frown upon a relationship that has such a huge age gap? And I raised my hand and said, well, I think that as, you know, consenting adults, the relationship is really no business of anyone's but their own. And again, embarrassed laughter. Like what I said was shocking or something. And then the same guy that clapped for me this time was like laughing that time, but like genuine laughing. Like he couldn't believe it how ridiculous everyone's reactions were. That's the only way I can guess he was reacting. I really hope it was, because, like, I don't feel like an asshole for believing these things. And then the professor was like, well, that's very open-minded of you. And yeah, I just, I don't know, I had a bad taste in my mouth of that class. Really did. Just not a very, fair environment for discussion. Seemed like we had a lot of really sensitive people in that class. And no, I will not use the word snowflake, because I'm not an alt-right dickhead. So yeah, I'm glad that class is over. It ended today, and I've just had kind of a bad day as a result. It kind of just threw me off balance for the day. Just finishing out the class with that same feeling that I'm old, you know, because I'm 25 and I still am not totally on board with like every single aspect of the modern political correctness movement. I think a lot of political correctness is ridiculous. And being around kids of that age, I just feel like I'm scandalous every fucking day for having the opinions that I do. And that doesn't bode well for my relationships in the future with young people. Like, if I was to become a teacher with my bachelor degree, you know, I'd probably have to end up suppressing my political views a lot, because eventually I'm going to be that old curmudgeon who is still holding on to, like, being able to tell, you know, dirty jokes and, like, you know, making light of, you know, politically sensitive topics and stuff like that that drive people into seizures nowadays. Anyway, yeah, I've been playing this game, right? I don't care. I go down and confirm the kill, of course, because she could still survive, I guess. You know, it would be interesting if every now and then when you went to confirm a kill, Bayek had to drive his blade into their throat, you know? Like, oh, they weren't really dead. But no, every time he does this, he's just sitting there looking at them for like a second and a half or whatever. And then he just leaves. So they're always dead. Like, they're never not dead. So that means that technically I don't really have to confirm their death at all.
Poisonous little woman. Talented, but twisted. Set it up again. His sticky fingers are everywhere. He's becoming a serious problem. The poison was just for show. At least the temple crocodiles are not going to die.
My poison or the crocodile poison? I love how there's no criminal justice in this world. It's just like, oh, this person committed a pretty heinous act. It wasn't murder or anything. It was just like, they did this kind of screwed up thing. Oh yeah, just go kill him. It's definitely not eye for an eye. It's just like, don't break the law unless you want to die. And that was their slogan. That was the criminal justice slogan for ancient Egypt. It's not an eye for an eye. Just don't break the law unless you want to die. Ayo. Alright, so we fast travel back to the temple. We go talk to him. Tell him things I'm sure he'll be shocked to hear. They always are.
Did you see his eyes? Something
We'll
is
get some
wrong.
experience
We're cursed.
and who gives a shit.
The sickness was not an omen from the gods.
I mean, I only do some of these side quests, so don't worry, it is moving along.
Poisoned? Are you
I think
sure?
I
By
had
whom?
to do
They
side
will pay
quests
with
to,
their lives.
yeah, to be able to assault Fort Bubastos, so that's the reason I start doing these
He's trying
in the
to
next
increase offerings from your
several
followers.
videos.
What? Sehetepe Sobek's right hand. He will never do this. What you are saying is blasphemy.
Ah, you priests. Forever holding to your superstitions. You have been told the truth. The gods themselves will judge what you do with it.
Damn right. Fucking preach,
Let
Bayek,
Adiaset
preach!
know about Sehetep.
See you next time, guys.
He's not going to like it.